Hi, everyone. I'm Bina Amanat and the Executive Director of the Deloitte AI Institute. And today on AI Ignition, we are joined by Cynthia Breazeal, social robotics pioneer and MIT professor. She is the Associate Director of the MIT Media Lab, where she founded and directs the Personal Robots Group. Her work balances technical innovation in AI, UX design, and understanding the psychology of engagement. In addition, Cynthia is director of the MIT-wide initiative on responsible AI for social empowerment and education. She's also the dean for digital learning at MIT Open Learning. Beyond her work at MIT, Cynthia co-founded the consumer social robotics company Jibo, where she served as chief scientist and chief experience officer. Welcome to the show, Cynthia. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. And you are a pioneer in social robotics and human robotics interactions. But what was your journey? What was the catalyst that drove you towards a career in this field?
It's great to be with you here today, Bina. I'm so excited to be able to share my work and kind of my story with you. For me, in terms of, the initial catalyst, for the very idea of a social robot, it really happened when I was 10 years old, and I'm like watching the original Star Wars movie for the first time. And, I see these incredible robots, right? And I can tell you, back during that time, the only robots I'd seen on television and movies were kind of these automaton that just kind of did what you told them. And
Yeah.
for the first time, I saw these, again, these robots that were full-fledged characters, had rich personalities, had emotions, had relationships, not just with each other, but with people. And together, they're going off and trying to save the galaxy, right? So that had such a profound, I think, formation of how I thought about what a robot certainly could be. Now, at 10, I knew robots like that didn't exist. I didn't think they would ever exist. Um, but, you fast forward, and I think, looking back, you can always kind of tell a coherent narrative, but it doesn't feel that way, I would say, as you're going through it. But when I was in college, I decided I wanted to be an astronaut.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I want to be an astronaut. I knew I wanted to be a mission specialist. So get a PhD in a relevant field. And I thought, okay, space robotics. At the time, like rovers and space robotics was becoming, and obviously an important technology. So when I applied to graduate school, I applied to a lot of different programs, but I was accepted to MIT. And, back in the day, it was called the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab. Now it's called CSAIL, but back in the day, it was called the AI Lab. And I was accepted into Professor Rod Brooks's group. Now, Rod Brooks is famous for being kind of the founder of the field of autonomous robots. And he wrote this really provocative paper called Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control, a Robot Invasion of the Solar System. And it was all about, if you're going to explore planets like Mars, there's too much of a delay to be able to teleoperate the robot. So they had to be autonomous. And don't just send one big one, send lots of small ones. So it was like the perfect timing of my interest at the time of thinking about space robotics and this group, that was doing these autonomous robots to explore Mars. And this was before Pathfinder, Sojourner. This was before NASA was thinking about this. So like this was the paper and the group and the work that put that idea kind of out there.
Wow.
And I can tell you the moment I walked into the lab and I saw all of these small autonomous robots, and this is back in the day,
Yeah.
like this is in the 90s,
Yeah.
they were all inspired by insects as natural intelligence, right? And so I remember it was like having that Star Wars moment wash over me again, where I'm like, oh my God, it's like if there is ever a place or a lab that's going to build robots like I saw in Star Wars, I'm like, it's going to be a lab like this, or maybe this very lab. So that just got me to realize that autonomous robots was like, it was a thing, it was a real thing. And that got me along, that got me along the path. And, it was literally the day that NASA landed Sojourner and Pathfinder on Mars. As you can imagine, in the field of robotics, it
Yeah.
was a huge celebration for everyone. I mean, oh my God, what an accomplishment. And I remember thinking, so now I'm a PhD student. I remember thinking, okay, so we send robots into all of these incredible places, into oceans, volcanoes, and now we've even landed one on Mars. why are they not in our homes? This was the
Mm.
dream. We were all promised,
Yes.
but no one was, I mean, really seriously working on this problem domain of completely autonomous robots being able to interact with everyday people. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the impetus. So I kind of, jokingly say it was kind of like the personal computer kind of moment where, people used to have these extravagant, really big machines that only experts could use in computing.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, what would it mean to put a computer on every desk in every home, right? It was
Yeah.
that moment for me. So it was kind
Yes.
of I guess, my Apple moment. But
Yeah.
but anyway, the question then was, okay, so what's that interface,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we already knew people tended to anthropomorphize these autonomous robots, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But basically, I thought the social interface is the universal interface. This is the interface by which people of all ages, from children to our oldest citizens, should be able to interact naturally with this kind of technology that we already anthropomorphize. But this opened the question of, what does it mean to build a machine that's socially and emotionally intelligent?
Yeah.
And so that's the birth of the field of social robotics and human robot interaction.
It's fascinating. And two things come to mind as you were speaking. One is, in addition to Star Trek, the one that made me most aware of how robots can be in our homes was, the TV show Small Wonder. Not sure if you ever watched it, but it was about this little girl robot who was part of this family. And, right now there's so much in the news about, companies creating robots for the home. And I look at it and say, you created this a while ago and you even co-founded a company, Jibo. So can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about what led to, Jibo and, where it is at now and how you are engaged with it?
Yeah. So the Jibo story is it's a really fun story. So, I'm a professor right at MIT,
Yeah.
advancing, the science and the technology of this field of social robotics. And we were starting to advance the algorithms to the point where we could start to think about what are interesting use cases and applications
Hmm.
for a social robot.
Hmm.
And we were always kind of looking at what are the latest kinds of technologies that we can use to build more affordable robots around. So first it was like handheld computers that were still kind of slow and clunky. It was before the smartphone, but even then we started to actually think about leveraging that because it was affordable, right? So computing, networking, sensors, like they were all getting smaller and more affordable. And then cloud computing was starting to happen, right? So we started to build robots around small handheld computational devices. Then the smartphone came out. And I thought, now is the time that you
Mm.
can actually build a pretty capable social robot experience, because it's the mechanics, it's the sensing, it's display technology, it's movements, it's computing, it's all of those things, but at a mass consumer price point. And we were, or at least I was really inspired by, I mean, obviously we had seen the app ecosystems explode on mobile devices. So the idea was, instead of like building a robot vacuum cleaner or a lawnmower that only did like one thing, what if it was a platform, a social
Yeah.
robot platform, where, because in our research we'd been applying social robots to all kinds of areas,
Yeah.
learning, health, you name it, right? It's like, if you can create a developer ecosystem around a social robotics platform with SDKs and so forth, that's the way to kind of,
Yeah.
start the kind of personal robots revolution. So it becomes a platform that people can infuse their ideas and their inspirations into. So that was the impetus for the idea behind Jibo. So it was a mass consumer
Mm.
play, which, as you probably know, is like one of the hardest
Yes.
businesses to create,
Yeah.
but around this idea of platform. So we got, seed funding. We started developing out, many concepts and ideations of this.
Yeah.
We were told, so we were thinking, maybe children or older adults were the sweet spots, because in a lot of our research, like there was something about this social emotional interaction that was really sticky, particularly for them. So we were funded by some leading VC firms, and they're strongly advocating that we do a crowdfunding campaign. And this is like back in, this is still kind of the, I don't know, earliest days of crowdfunding campaigns. they tended to be catering to like, young techno hipster guys. We're like, this is not the market for who we're trying. Like, why do we need to do this? It's like, it's not the market we're trying to get the attention of. And they basically said, well, just so the company pitching before you and after you will have data from a crowdfunding campaign. So we're like, okay, we got the message. We got to do this.
Yeah.
So we chose Indiegogo. This is what is this? Is this the summer of, I forget the year, but the punchline is we did one of the most, I think the most successful technology crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. And this was the summer before Alexa was announced.
Oh, okay.
So when we were pitching, all the VCs were asking, how does this compare to a mobile phone? Everybody has a mobile phone. They're going to control everything in their house with a mobile phone, right?
Yeah.
They were talking about the far-field speech interface, right?
Yes.
In fact, that was getting a lot of pushback too, right? So nobody knew that this far-field speech interface would like revolutionize how people interact with not only technology, but AI every day.
Yes.
So long story short, the appearance of Alexa complicated our Jibo story. But in many ways, I think it was Jibo. Jibo is like, if a talking speaker is here, Jibo was like further, right? Is more advanced, further down the kind of evolutionary story. So even though it preceded it, I think you probably had to go to the speaker and the smart devices stuff before you probably saw like the investment in something as complex and interesting as a social robot.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, the company didn't make it, but it was absorbed by another organization. So I came back to MIT as a full-time professor, and Jibo is still, it is a unique robot platform. We are the only university that can actually deploy social robots, cloud connected under, IRB protocol, which is all about universities doing ethical studies with human participants for long-term interactions in a lot of exciting domains where the long-term interaction with the AI and building relationship and rapport and working together collaboratively to long-term goals like learning or health or emotional wellness, right? Getting a lot of really fascinating results that, again, keep reinforcing when people experience a technology, and in this case, it's a personified AI technology that supports a far more holistic human experience. So not just cognitive or data or decision-making, but that plus the social and the emotional, that is what engages people in a way that they are even more successful with the technology than with an alternate technology that runs the same skills but without all of those properties. So we're understanding a lot about what it takes to build technologies that can really deeply and meaningful engage people, all ages, but to help them achieve deeply important goals in their lives. So not just ordering pizza, not just getting the news, but I want to be healthier. I want to be emotionally resilient. I don't want to become depressed. I mean, these are really, really deeply important goals. And this is where the long-term interaction and that rapport and relationship can really make a difference.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And from a personal life perspective, do you see social robots having a role in organizations or at an enterprise level? And what would that look like? Pick any industry. What would a social robot, what would be the impact of social robotics in an industry?
Yeah, so I think, in general, as AI continues to advance, and now, conversational AI is exploding, right? So, just as our ability to work with intelligent tools and technologies continues to advance, I think they're going to become increasingly collaborative versus something that you just use, something that may be increasingly more like a collaborative or thought partner with you or with teams of people. I think that's a trajectory we're going to continue to see. I think, so whether these technologies, these, conversational agents, are helping us make better decisions. I mean, that's of course, everybody is already applying AI to do that, but just through new ways, new forms of engagement. But I also think, mental health is such a huge topic right now. Every organization
Yes.
needs to be worried and focusing on how do I bring the best out of my people, and
Yes.
how do I make sure that they are able to, you know, be healthy and productive and fulfilled.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're in a time with the mass resignation, right? People are,
Yeah.
especially in AI jobs, they're just swirling around from company to company. So when you talk about retention and, well, education and training of employees, and thinking about mental health and wellness, I think these kinds of technologies that I'm talking about, this more socially, emotionally collaborative, engaging technology, it's really about how do you build intelligent technologies that really help bring the best out of people, help bring the most out of people. I think that is the punchline.
Yeah.
But so many applications, right, from the
Yeah.
practical decision making to the emotional wellness and health, right? So
Yeah. And I mean, you are an established pioneer, but what's coming out is that you're also a very responsible pioneer, right? You're already thinking ahead. I've been following some of your recent work, and you're focusing on this theme of living with AI
yeah,
and understanding the long-term impact of social robots, specifically applied to education, pediatrics, well-being, health, and aging.
yeah,
So how did that responsible part come into the play? Because it's technologist. I'm a technologist by training.
yeah,
It's very easy to get fascinated by all the cool things it can do. And you have to, force yourself to say, okay, here are the ways it could go wrong. Here are some of the impacts that we are not thinking about, and we need to address it. So how did, what was the catalyst for you to start thinking about it in a more from a long-term impact perspective?
yeah. So I mean, it's been an evolution, and I think it's been an evolution also as the field has, the field of AI is becoming acutely aware that if not designed and deployed responsibly, AI, it can exacerbate inequality. It can actually do harm, and nobody wants that. So, first we were thinking about how can these AI technologies we create, really, when you think about it, it's about promoting human flourishing. Our whole framework is about how do we help people to flourish and to become who they aspire to be. That's kind of been the guiding, the
Yeah,
North
yeah,
Star, the
yeah.
kind of guiding light. And as we were engaging all these different communities, age groups, from like early childhood, children attending at-risk schools where you want to bring more equitable, high-quality education to them, to older adults who want to age with dignity and independence. And what we were realizing more and more was, first of all, people are interacting with AI every day, right? It's in their mobile
Yes.
phones, it's, on the internet. It's like, and they have no idea they're interacting with AI. And like, we're building AI systems. So when you learn, when you
Yeah.
start to work with a robot coach to be healthier, it's like, this is an AI system that is profoundly shaping ideas, behaviors, right? So like, we're doing it to promote human flourishing, but it's like, holy moly, it's like, there's another side, darker side to that coin, right? Where people can
Yes.
be manipulated, right? So
Uh-huh.
we started to say it is no longer sufficient for people to be digitally literate. They need
Yeah.
to be AI literate, because they need to know what these systems are like. First of all, there was so much hype. It's hard to know
Yes.
what the heck AI is, right? They
Yeah.
need to they need to have kind of a grounded understanding of what this technology actually is, but they need to understand how they can responsibly use it as a user, as a consumer. And you and I both know this field is not diverse or inclusive by a long shot.
Mm-mm.
So for equity, we
Yeah.
need a far more diverse and inclusive future workforce. So we
Yeah.
started to develop a lot of curriculum around AI literacy. And
Mm.
baked into that curriculum and those learning experience, it's inspired by, Media Lab. We love constructionist learning. We love to foster learning through making, but now position learners as responsible designers. So as they learn about any new method or technology, learn about how you go through design processes to think through stakeholders and implications of that. So you become more responsible, ethically minded designers, and then also feel empowered that you can apply this as technology to help address challenges and opportunities in your communities, because you can't just leave it to big corporations or organizations to solve all these problems. What you also need is people in the communities empowered and able to use technologies to solve problems that are meaningful to them. And so that's a future that we're also trying to create through a lot of our AI literacy work.
That's fascinating. And, are there any key takeaways that you can share that's applicable for today's business leaders?
Yeah. Okay. So we've been designing learning experiences, curriculum programs for kids for K-12. We've
Yeah.
actually been taking those same insights to develop AI learning experiences for leaders.
Ah,
Yeah.
awesome.
So we're like, we at MIT, we're mind and hands as our motto, right? It's like we learn through doing, we learn through making. I'm like, why should leaders and managers only learn through lectures and discussion? They should
Yeah.
also learn by actually getting their hands on this stuff and trying things out and making things with it. So we, a lot of our stuff we do for kids is about non-coders, right? So people have very
Mhm.
sophisticated ideas and understanding. They're just not
Yeah.
computer scientists yet, right? So
Yes.
a lot of these same tools and technologies we reapply,
Yeah.
reframe them within organizational culture, organizational change and behavior. So things that are relevant to a leadership audience. But it's all about learning through creating and making and discussing that, right? So it's the same principles at work, but
Yeah.
for an adult workforce. And what we're finding, we're doing research around this. We're studying the efficacy of this kind of approach. They love it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super effective. They love it. So anyway, that's what we're doing for leaders when we think about innovating pedagogical approaches for how
Yeah.
any can learn about AI, especially if you're having to lead teams who are trying to build solutions with AI. So
Yeah.
it's really important.
And one of the biggest challenges leaders face today is hiring and retaining talent. Can this same training be used to upskill or reskill their
Oh,
existing workforce? And how does that play out? What are your thoughts?
yeah, absolutely. So I wear multiple hats at MIT right now. The
Yeah.
social robotics work has been a lot about my research at the Media Lab, where I direct the personal robots group. I'm now also the dean for digital learning, where I'm
Wow.
among the leadership of MIT's open learning program. So that's the group that brings all of MIT's educational opportunities to the world. So we have a lot of innovative programs in thinking about what's the future of workforce learning and education, where upskilling is
Mm.
really important. So whether you're somebody who already is gainfully employed in a company and you want to be upskilled, or you're someone who's looking for a career change and you
Yeah.
want to get
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
data science or machine learning,
Yeah.
it's like, how can we help, again, many more people access, well, these jobs that you and I know? It's like data science, machine learning, AI, cybersecurity. There's all this demand to hire people in these fields, and we can't train them fast enough, right? So particularly when we think about the equity question, if you
Yes.
can make a far more equitable group of people who can achieve those
Yeah.
jobs, that's all about upward mobility, right? So a lot of what we're doing in open learning is opening up those kinds of programs all around, all many different fields. But I'm particularly passionate, partly because of my background, but I'm particularly passionate about data science, AI, machine learning, all these kinds of topics, because you
Yeah.
could be someone in Africa and be gainfully employed by a global company somewhere else, right? So it's like your
Mhm.
ability to access apprenticeships, internships, and jobs is just, it's tremendous if you can show that they have the skills. So, thinking through customized learning trajectories with digital credentials that are verifiable on blockchain. We're trying to create a whole new approach. We call it agile continuous
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
whereby you can have, smaller chunks that you can get credentials for, so that you can stack these credentials basically in an adaptive way that helps you, again, tailor yourself for a job that you want, versus say
Yeah.
going to 4 years to
Yeah.
university and amassing massive debt, and if you leave halfway through, you got nothing, right? So it's like, we got to kind of think about, what do people who are busy,
Yeah.
money matters, they
Yeah.
want to get upskilled, there's a lot of room, I think, for actually revolution, I think, in how we prepare lifelong learners in the workforce. So that's what I'm, really excited about, in the open learning context.
And what's digital learning? Like, is it learning digitally, or is it more about learning digital skill sets that you need for today's world? I'm just curious about it, on hearing more about, what are you trying to accomplish in your role?
Yeah.
Which aspect of digital are you
Yeah.
touching?
So, the bottom line is, at MIT, obviously, we want to, advance innovation, particularly
Yeah.
in terms of experience and outcomes, right? So, innovative technologies of all forms, but of course, many of those are digital today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do we advance those experiences? There's folks at MIT, obviously, a lot of places, AR, VR, social robots, right? Just innovative ways of
Yeah.
scaling high quality learning experiences to people, right? So innovation is a big one. The other big one for us is understanding how people learn. So the science of learning through and using these technologies in different formats, right? So right now we kind of know, right? It's like you have the in-person experience, and that could be really good. We have a completely virtual experience, is what we're doing now, and it could be okay. Hybrid is the worst,
Yes.
but logically, hybrid should be able to leverage the best of both. So how do you do that, right? So I think that's a big area of innovation as well. So when you talk about a time in industries, right, where you have remote and going into the office workforce who have to collaborate, I think this is one of the big challenges and questions of our time, is how do we navigate this new world where many more people, they don't want to go into work every day, they want to be able to work remote, but you do have
Yeah.
people going into work. So
Yeah.
how do you create those collaborative spaces and experiences, whether it's for creative problem solving
Yeah.
or brainstorming and innovation or learning? I think this is a huge
Yeah.
area of opportunity.
Yeah, and one of the things, that a side effect of of building this kind of learning opportunities, is it's not just to train for the current, workforce gaps, but also being more inclusive. Uh,
Yeah.
as you probably remember, I started a nonprofit called Humans for AI, which is focused on, getting more diversity and inclusion
Yeah.
into AI. And, my primary intention with that was to educate, the nurses, the elementary school
Yeah.
teachers, people who may not become part of your workforce, but they still need to understand AI.
They're going to use it. They're going to
Yes,
be using it.
use it, and they just read the headlines and they're so lost, right? And in the
Yeah,
future, they might have to vote on some of the regulations that
that's
come, and they're
absolutely right.
not equipped. So how are you thinking about, access and inclusivity in AI?
Yeah.
What's your goal with MIT Open Learning on, getting more inclusive
Yeah.
from, with people from different, even professional, educational backgrounds?
No, definitely. So, within MIT, the third hat I wear. So I am also director of an MIT-wide initiative. It's called RAISE, and it stands for
Ah,
Responsible AI for Social Empowerment and Education. So
mm,
it's basically about the cross section of AI and learning. So whether it's AI that helps people learn or people learning about AI, a big mission of that initiative is diversity and inclusion. And to your point, it's about AI literacy for society. So we're
yeah,
basically saying, let's assume within MIT, we got the graduate, undergraduate side of it covered. What about everybody else? The AI genie's out of the bottle. So how do
yeah,
we help educate children? Because first of all, they're already using AI, right?
yeah,
But also so they can be responsible users, to your point. They're going to be voting citizens, right? And we want them to feel it's a tool that they can be empowered to make stuff with. So whether they're going to be innovating the algorithms as like a graduate student someday, or whether they're going to be using it in arts, in in in
yeah,
in agriculture, like whatever.
yeah,
I think the big thing is just for them to be able to envision and be aware that chances are, no matter what you do as a profession, AI is probably going to be interesting and useful to you. So just building that awareness. And then in the workforce,
yeah.
absolutely, it's really about, we have a whole bunch of different portfolios within open learning. So some is for the, like, literally the very beginner, just gets you started. That's called the
Yeah.
MIT Horizons experience. We have X Pro, which is really about people who are already, in industries, technically minded, wanting to upskill. We have entrepreneurial boot camps, hackathons, by which you could be, again, not even in an organization or within an organization, and you want to have ideations about how you apply innovative technologies of all kinds, not just AI, but technologies of all kinds around new products and services. So, a lot of offerings that we have that, again, bridge online asynchronous learning, but also in-person, collaborative, experiential learning. And then increasingly, we're starting to build relationships with other organizations for apprenticeships. So we're trying to create the whole learning journey and path by which you learn about it. You learn about the human skills.
Yeah.
That's through a lot of our in-person work. It's the human skills, communication, leadership, teamwork. And then you apply it on the job through an apprenticeship or an internship. And then hopefully that gets you on the path to actually get that job. So we're trying to understand and create this new agile continuous learning module that bridges asynchronous digital, in-person, and work on on the job learning to try to help thread the needle through all those skills and abilities I think somebody needs holistically to be successful in the workplace.
Yeah. Now, looking to the future, when you're successful with all these different initiatives, what does it look like? What are some of the implications for businesses across the world that you envision in the short term, in the next couple of years versus the next 5 to 6 years, the long term?
Yeah. So, I think one of the things I would love to be able to look back and say we really contributed to that would just be a much more innovative, entrepreneurial, in a responsible way workforce. So yes, people will be going and joining companies, but I would love to see many, many more diverse companies started and founded. Because for me as an entrepreneur, I thought I know what it's like to be an underrepresented, group, and then I became a founder and went, oh my God, it's like 3 times worse than what I even thought, and even worse for underrepresented minorities. So there's so much we need to do to change this, both within the United States and globally. So greater entrepreneurship, ideas coming from motivated, talented people from a much more diverse group. I think that is super important. I would love to see a world where people are able to really come together and bring the diversity of ideas. I feel like we are in this particularly challenging time when we're living in different universes. We can't even talk about same thing in the same way, but is there ways that we can help foster collaborations earlier in life, and maybe these are early in life, so that as you grow as an adult, you are able to have constructive dialogues, collaborate in meaningful ways, respect the perspectives that other people bring, to understand there are big challenges that we're facing in this world, and we need each other to solve them. I would love to see that be one of the big impacts that we have, and I would love to see that happen globally. So again, with the AI lens, we know that a lot of it is happening in the global north.
Yeah.
I would love to see a lot more happening in the global south. So how do we go from access to equity? To me, that's a big one. And I would love to look back and say open learning and MIT had an important role to play in that as well.
Now, you talked about social robots in the context of employee, well-being and being able to interact more. What's your future vision of a workforce where humans and social robots are peers? They work together. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I am still so inspired by that Star Wars dream. And I have to tell you, so much of our research and our science supports that, again, a more holistic, a more human-centered, a more humanistic approach, responsible approach to designing advanced technologies, including AI, is going to continue to be critical, because it's all about what do we need as human beings to bring the best and the most of ourselves to make the right decisions, to solve the problems we want to solve, to open the opportunities, right? So it's all about what we need as human beings to be more, to be better. And, my vision would be that as our technologies and tools and experiences become increasingly intelligent, they are helping us to flourish and to, tackle these huge challenges that we face, and that we feel that they become not crutches. I mean, I think there's a real concern that people become over reliant on these kind of technologies, but they are, they're not crutches, they're trampolines, right? They empower us, right? They empower us to think better, more carefully, ethically, creatively, to do, to make the things and the solutions that we're trying to create. So that's my vision. I think a lot of ways it'll happen in many different experiences. Some case we'll be using these intelligent tools as a tool. In some case, they'll be like a creative collaborator, motivator, something that helps coach us, right? I see all of these possibilities. And it really just gets down to, what is the value proposition of what you're trying to solve in this particular case. That will guide all of the design decisions that you make. So I think another kind of meta point of what we're doing is, at the Media Lab, it's not only multidisciplinary, but it's appreciating that design is a huge part of making, human-centered solutions that work. And so AI is this field where there's not a lot of design. There's a lot of algorithms, a lot of core engineering, and I'm trying to show and infuse, like, if you really want to build impactful solutions that make a difference in the world, not just in academia, but in the world, you need to marry it with design. And I'm hoping that my work is at least, beyond social robots, is showing why that is interesting and important, and in fact, I think critical.
Love it. I love your optimism. I'm a fellow optimist. So, I think, and I do think we still have the power to shape it the way we want it to be. So, I am so glad that my audience got a chance to hear you speak about not only social robotics, but just the implications and, learn more about the learning component of it.
Yeah.
So, Cynthia, how can people stay connected with you and keep in touch with all the amazing work that you're doing? Where can they follow you? What's
so certainly, the web is a great way to follow a lot of our adventures at the Media Lab. So you can just Google Personal Robots Group at the Media Lab. Open Learning has so many amazing programs. I definitely encourage people to check out Open Learning. And then Raise at raise.mit.edu. There's so much great work that's going on there. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm just Cynthia Breazeal on that as well. But there's a lot going on. So
and we'll include links to all your initiatives in the show notes, so that our audience has access to it. Cynthia, thanks again for being with us on the show today, and thanks to our audience for tuning into AI Ignition.
Well, thank you. This was really wonderful.
Be sure to stay connected with the Deloitte AI Institute for more AI research and insights. Take care.